welcome everyone to what we're calling, or I'm entitling this workshop as AI Fundamentals, and it's designed for creative professionals and what I've termed as non-technical professionals. I think even if you're a programmer these days, you'd get a lot out of the AI tools that are available to us all. I've kept this sort of non-technical. The goals by the end of the next, well, let's say maybe 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes, would be that you have a basic understanding of some of the more popular tools that are out there in the market today, and you're able to generate what I call usable work product, as opposed to not so usable work product, which is one of my favorite things to avoid generating. And you'll have a chance to then incorporate these into your workflow. You should have an idea about how you can get started doing that. So that's the goals for today. Obviously, we'll take a look at the concept of technology. I've done a case study here to show you how I've been using some of these tools, and hopefully that'll help you to get started. I also want to have a little discussion with you all about the near-term future and what we as team workers can do together, and how we attack that, if you will. And then, of course, all this is open discussion. Our meeting norms. Love to see all your faces. Thank you. Cameras on wherever possible. We do ask that you mute if you've got a lot of background noise. Raise hands. I will try to monitor that. I don't do a great job just as a presenter, honestly, in monitoring the chat, because I'm like focused on clicking the right buttons and getting through my presentation. So if you chat, I'll look at it afterward. Or somebody wants to pipe in and say, hey, Phil, there was a chat, Kristen can grab me or whatever it is and let me know. And obviously this is, let's have some fun with this. I hope the examples I'm using here in this will be interesting to you, and we can all do some learning today. So let's start with the big, bold statement. What do you think about this? By the end of this year, 2023, everyone here will have used one of the tools we're going to talk about today, and you'll get paid for doing it. Yeah, I'm getting thumbs up. We're getting some puzzled looks. Let me see. I'll view the chat here. Anybody? There we are. Comment away. But the idea here, if we take a look now at the overview, and I tell you that I think that the tools out there today for creative professionals, especially, you might be worried about not having a human touch and not having the creativity or content creation that you've been used to doing. But I think the tools out there today might actually enhance your ability to do it. And I think that there's a lot of that is to be creative, and it also opens up a lot of exciting possibilities for folks who are in the creative arenas. Again, whether you're a writer, whether you're a designer, whether you're a programmer, I consider all those creative professions. And so you have some great opportunities here. And I think that what these tools might do, I hope that they'll open up a lot of opportunities for you to get past some of the more mundane work that you have to do and actually open up to what I think will be a really large set, in fact, potentially limitless set of opportunities for you. And so, keeping an open mind about it is pretty important. I know that I've seen some good, bad, and ugly with this. So, this presentation certainly will walk through some of that. But I want to make sure that we think about this not just in this. You think about it not just as it's a limited tool, but rather I think you're going to see a lot of unlimited possibilities coming at you over the course of the next 12 months. So think about that comment as we go forward here. What's the big deal about AI today? A lot of folks think about AI as this sort of robotic, humanoid robot thing that's going to come at us in the next couple of years. Maybe it's already, and you get disturbed by watching some of the stuff online, like a dog that's running around and it looks like some futuristic, I don't know, police drama or something like that that's going on. But, when you think about it, we've been seeing AI in our lives for quite some time. Spelling and grammar check, that's an AI tool. Personal assistants, Siri, or Hey Alexa, stop spying on me, Alexa. That's a side comment. But those virtual personal assistants have been out there for a while, right? We all know that's AI. Recommendation algorithms on websites when you're buying something, that's a kind of a sometimes fun and sometimes annoying piece of AI. voice recognition on social media platforms, that's AI. So, it's out there, and it's been out there for a long time, but, what's new or what's happening that, all of a sudden we get all this buzz. I mean, if you see things on Twitter, or you're on any kind of social media, it's all about this new AI. And what really it comes down to is this concept of natural language processing, or NLP. We're going to talk a bit about that. But things you'll see going forward here, whether it's the ability to take a piece of language and process it, and we'll talk about how the algorithm will run and the tools will run to give you what are actually opportunities to take that language, do something with it. So what they do, what a tool that's out there today, just roughly, because it's natural language processing, the tools present a great new set of opportunities for us because they can help us to do things right. Write website copy or blog posts, short stories. Think about anything that you could write. If you could imagine it, it will help you to do it. But I think the emphasis is on help. We've seen some other things today. Today, in fact, I got a message from one of the team workers out there about a new coding platform. So it's a language, right? Programming languages, that's what they are. But at the end of it all, this tool takes any language and does something with it. The question is, what can it do with it, right? So I think it's going to help. We should envision these as helpful tools to get us through some of the more sort of mundane tasks that we're looking at in our lives, and we'll talk about that too. Some of the tools that are out there today, natural language processing tools, you might see some of them. There's one called Mem AI. That's sort of a notepad that has AI that can be fine-tuned to look at the documents in your workspace and help you to organize them and to take better notes. That's a free tool. ChatGPT, which is probably the most publicized of the last maybe a month to 2 months of these tools, and it's getting a lot of traction across domains. Today, it's free in its preview mode. My gut tells me they'll start to charge for that in the future. U.com is one as well. It is running off the Microsoft AI architecture. And so the product you might recognize there is UChat. And then I think one of the more advanced products, it's a paid product, is called Jasper. And I've been doing a lot of work inside of Jasper myself as well. So here's just some examples. There's probably, I don't know, 100 more you could go dig up today if you surfed around. Seeing them all over. In fact, like I said this morning, got a notification that there's one out there for programming. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you program in React or JavaScript or something. And there's tools for that now. So really what's going on is that the ability for you to take any language and put it into a system and get something out of it, we'll call it input and output, right? That's what's out there. I think that, again, the future here, we'll talk about a little bit, but be careful as you're out there. My only thought process here is that as you get involved, like anything else, what's worth paying for and what's not, that's up to you to decide. But just realize that some are free and some are paid for. What we're going to focus in on today is this ChatGPT concept. I think it's the most, again, the widely publicized and maybe used. And so let's just talk about that a little bit. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So that's just, one of those technical terms out there we all love to use. So GPT, it's really a neural network machine learning model. And if you think about what this stuff does, it basically goes out and uses internet data to generate any type of text. If you hear of a company called OpenAI, that's who is behind this. So ChatGPT is the OpenAI product. It requires a small amount of input text to generate large volumes of relevant and hopefully sophisticated, we'll talk about that, machine generated text. So that's the most, the way to think about it is that the tool has this ability to, it has loaded into it, if you will, a whole bunch of data, like the internet from the last 4 years, I think it is now. I think Archive has about 4 years they've got in this now, maybe longer. And they're continuing 5 years now, up to 5 years. I heard we're going to be as up to date as we can be with like literally, into 2022, in the next 6 months or something. They'll basically have combed the internet for language and put it in here. So, it's what it's doing is it is taking a look at what you give it, and it's using a predictive model to spit something back at you, quite frankly. Now, how does it get that information from you. There's two major ways that you can communicate with any one of these systems. One is the prompt way. Okay, so we call it prompt. It's you need to put something in specific input to generate some output. Another way that some of them work is you can give it some text and have it complete it. You may have seen some of this actually in Microsoft Word products, or even Google, I think Docs has it as well, where you're typing and it suggests a word and you just press tab or enter and it puts that word in there. So that's a very simple way to look at it. That's a very simple model, AI model that says, I think the next word that you want is this, is it? And it's based upon, the average word that would come next, right? But these tools that we're talking about today are much more advanced, obviously. So prompt or sentence completion, if you think about it this way, prompt tools are more versatile, but the sentence completion ones can be more user-friendly and likely efficient because you're giving it a sentence and it can use that predictively to come up with a better return or output for you. But both have their use cases. What I'd love to do here is focus on the prompt, or what you would see as chat-driven. You see Chat GPT, that's the product, and that really is a chat function. So let's dive in a little bit on a case study. Let's just say I was hired by a fly fishing school to produce
Violet, cut it out.
So if we have I was hired by this fly fishing school. It's a woman-owned business in Freeport, Maine. They have 1 to 3 day classes that focus on introducing students to the sport and enabling them to do it independently. And this has been a traditionally male-dominated sport, and they feel like they're missing about half their audience. So their CMO reached out to me and they said, I want to just write a short blog post for why, what's the benefits of fly fishing for women. Okay, so if we think about now, and hopefully you guys have it's hard to get these screenshots. I was going to try to do this live. It doesn't work so well live, frankly, because you get a lot of different outputs and whatnot, but you guys can hopefully see this screen. And it says, write a blog post. Here's me, PH is me talking to the system. It says, write a blog post about why women should fly fish. Okay, so that's an input, right? And I'm chatting with the system here. So in about, I don't know, it takes maybe 5 seconds and it produces output for me. Now, does anyone here raise your hand, either virtually or, on the screen for me? Wave, have you ever used a tool like this? Anybody here ever seen such a tool? Okay, so you've all used some of the people use some of it and some have not seen these. Okay, so for those of you who've done this before, then you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's kind of like, that's great. That's spit it back to me. Wonderful. Now, if you look at this, though, it's I don't know. I grew up in the United States, and one of the things they taught us to write was a 5-paragraph essay, and it was the introduction paragraph and a conclusion paragraph and 3 supportive paragraphs in between, and it was formulaic, right? And that is, if you look at this, it's about a 10th grade, United States-based 10th grade, 14, 15-year-old, maybe 16-year-old students, right? So I really pity teachers these days, because if I was a kid, I'd just go right to Chat GPT. I just crank out my homework. I'll see you later, and that's it, right? So why wouldn't you, right? Get on with my fun life. But for those of us who are trying to generate something that might be a little bit better than that, this probably doesn't do the trick. So you think to yourself, well, how in the heck am I gonna get something better out of this? So what we look at is, like any other computer system, the best inputs lead to the best outputs, right? Usually. So the AI models are going to react to your prompt. And so what is AI like? If we say use structures, what are the best prompts? The best prompts use structures that AI likes. What is AI like? It likes things like lists or bullet points. It's going to react better if you give it a specific goal. A goal could be to brainstorm, outline, mind map, something like that. If you are specific and concise, you're going to get a better return. Okay, so you think about your structure about commanding, giving a command, giving a prompt to the system. It should be very specific and keep it pithy, as they say. And then you can humanize your input a bit. And we're going to talk about that now. That's applying what I think, and this is really where I think the magic comes in working with these systems. When I say humanize the input, what I'm really saying is apply the tools, techniques, and all of the stuff you've learned in your career into the prompt, and you'll get much better output. Let's try it. So here's the prompt now. I said, okay, well, you're all kind of writers or, folks in this world. And I said, let's use an inverted pyramid style, right? And I've instructed the system as to what that is. I've said the inverted pyramid style does this, right? Start with, don't bury the lead, right? I'm a journalist. I want to give my lead right away. Okay. And then I want to follow with my supporting information and with the background. So there's your inverted pyramid writing style. You could pick anyone, right? There's all kinds of different styles. When I'm saying, this is what this is. I've defined it for the system. And I say, use it to write a blog post about why women should take up fly fishing. I've increased my specificity, right? And then they say why it's good for them. I said why they should take it up. And now was the big reveal. Don't rush that greatness. We get a little bit better output, I think. Hang on, did I get you back here? Whoop. Sorry. Yes? Okay. So we've got some better output. We see that it's returned evidence, right, for me here. It said, some sort of supporting evidence about, why you should do it, compelling reasons to take up fly fishing. They also use some interesting words like community and connection, which I thought were quite interesting, that it now returns something that's more specific, interesting, and I think should surprise and delight my reader more, right? So that's just in the first change that I've made here, and implying some specificity and structure to my command, or my input, the prompt in the terms of the of ChatGPT. So what if I actually then increased the structure for the engine? Remember I said the AI engine likes something like a list. So I said, all right, well, I've got my topic. So notice how I've organized this. I said the topic now, : AI likes that, likes to see what my topic is. I've defined what the inverted pyramid style is. Did that in my last effort. Now I said, what is novelty? Now this, by the way, in reading and doing what you all do professionally, you think about how to attract your reader or how to engage people from a marketing standpoint. What do we think about novelty? It's counterintuitive, or it has humor, it's surprise, it delights your reader. So we can define that. You could define novelty as anything you wanted to here. I'm just saying, this is what I want you to do for me. And now I say, write the blog post and use this inverted pyramid style and novelty, okay? And what happens? Well, I think I get better results, right? Now it's novel, it's giving some level of specificity and things. It keeps the items around, the research it did, and came back with so I shouldn't say research, it doesn't do research, but it keeps some information about specificity here. It's engaging, and it has a little bit of humor to it. I don't really like the first line though. Can you all see my screen there? This thing about dropping a romance novel, and I'm like, no, that's not where we want to be here. It's 2023, man, right? Come on, what are we doing, right? And so, okay, so I said, you know what, help me out at the first line. It's not great, finds a gender stereotype, but I'll entice the reader via a counterintuitive approach. Here's the line, rewrite it. So it makes an effort. Not bad, not great, not bad. I'd say it's, is it ready? Not really. It needs editing, right? But it's a pretty good start. And you can see in my second and third iterations, it got better. It got evidence for me. It talked about community and connection. It drew in physical benefits. It talked about mental health benefits. And it actually talked about the need for training, that you can't just walk out there and try to fly fish. Anybody in this call ever do any fly fishing? I don't know, but that's me. I'm alone. Yeah, that's sort of me. I was taught by my father and grandfather, which meant watch what I do and then go do it. That was their instruction, but not great for fly fishing or technical stuff like that. But yeah, I've done a fair amount of my life. It's not easy. You need some training. It's very fun. But if we apply some more work with the engine and you took this, it's certainly going to require a lot less editing, right? So I'm thinking about website copy, I'm thinking about blog posts, I'm thinking if you're bombarded with a mountain worth of work, This may be a way to get started. I'm not saying that it would be a finished product by any sense, but you can see how we can make it better. Now let's talk quickly about some common mistakes. And this has happened to me for sure with these tools, and I'm anxious to hear other people who've used it as we get toward the end here. But one is that you generate so much content. I mean, this thing is just, you could just go and go and go and go and go. You can see right away, I had like 3 or 4 different versions of that one blog post, right? So you generate a lot of content, you get overwhelmed quickly, and you go down a lot of rabbit holes. That's really hard. Another item is that you believe everything the tool tells you. Remember that the tool is designed to produce average data, the best probable outcome, right? So is it always when you're typing in Google Docs or Microsoft Word and it goes to complete or give you the next word you want to type, is that always the right word? Not always. So you can't believe everything this thing tells you. That's the other thing, right? Remember, I want to highlight this too. Most of these tools, including I'm specifically speaking about ChatGPT, it is not a search engine. It does not go out and comb around and use Google or some other search tool to find anything on the internet. Now, some are oriented that way. Jasper has an element of that to it, that it will actually do some Google searching and include the search results for you. But this is just based upon the data that's been put into the model. And it does this average data, and it doesn't actually weight the information. It doesn't say, oh, I'm going to give this more importance than something else. So don't believe everything it tells you. Another thing is, don't ask it to do math. I've seen a lot of people laugh and joke about this online, and they ask ChatGPT to do math, even kind of like sort of what I would call like test math, like, where you have to do a little bit of, it's like the algebraic math.
What am I doing?
Like, oh, figure it out. So if you have to figure out something, it's not designed to do that. But more importantly, it's not even really good at counting words. So I've done a lot of work with it, trying to ask to give me a 500-word blog post, to expand this to 1,200 words. It doesn't really do that. For whatever reason, it doesn't even count. ChatGPT specifically does not count words very well. By the way, you guys could mute if you have any background noise, I'd appreciate that. So don't ask it to do math, algebraic math, and don't even rely upon it to count words for you. Now, again, there's some other paid tools that do a good job of counting words and things like that, because they have some built-in sort of text editors, but those are usually paid tools. Last thing is you need to be specific. If you are not specific with the tool, it's going to generate a lot of really sort of fuzzy and or not specific output. So if you said, tell me how to grow my business, it's probably not going to return anything really great to you. But if you said, how can I use Twitter ads to grow my fly fishing business and target women to attend my classes, you can see how that is going to return a lot better results. So like so many things, you have to be careful about, common mistakes and be specific. In here, I'd say the biggest thing I could recommend is just be specific in your prompts, and you'll get a lot better results. So what's out here in the future for those of us who are, watching this world come at us pretty quickly? That's all of us. I think you're going to see a lot of AI tools across a huge spectrum of writing, of creative, of anything you could really think of, really, because we can understand how these tools could apply in a lot of ways. So for example, Notion has their own AI that's going to be built into their model. They're actually in, I think you can sign up for early release on that right now. I'm still waiting on my notice of that. Shutterstock as well has, looking for some type of, photo or, some type of artwork or something like that. Then you can join, you can join that waitlist as well. So, make sure that you, being aware of what's out there is really important. I think, if these major companies are doing it, there's also niche organizations out there. So if you're focusing on one or some specific element in your work, you're going to be seeing that as well. It's everywhere because these are, if you think about OpenAI, and that's behind ChatGPT, they're a massively funded company. They have some massive names behind them, Microsoft being one of them. So they're just, that's their job, is to get their products out there now, and integrating with these other tools is something where everyone is going to be in the next, I'd say, less than 12 months. So now that we've gone through this process, what do you think about the statement I made earlier? Do you really think that you're going to use the tool? Do you think you could use this tool? Do you think you're probably going to get paid for using the tool? I mean, my thought process when I first entered into this a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, it's just not, I wouldn't have thought that I'd be where I am with it today, to be quite honest. I do think now that I have used it, that it's without a doubt a benefit to my business. And I would be surprised if, in fact, I already am getting paid to use it. So just be clear on that. So I'd be surprised if you won't going forward. What about concerns that you guys have had? And I want to we'll start off the Q&A section, comments, questions, concerns, thoughts on this. I want to talk about the poll that I ran last week. And it was interesting because, certainly people are concerned about not understanding the tools and what they can do. I thought another interesting reaction, we've had some reactions here about clients thinking they will use this stuff to reduce my, contract with them. And those two kind of go together in some ways. But there's one thing is just education, right? Getting yourself up to date on the tools and understanding what they can do. Clients thinking that they can reduce their costs. I think that's going to be, I don't know how you all feel about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but the issue around reducing time or reducing fees from people like us in the creative space, I've lived through that in the technical space before. And my reaction to that is that because I know how to use a tool, or just because the tool's available doesn't mean you know how to use it, right? A lot of people are great at driving, but I would not be a race car driver. I'm not that kind of driver, right? So, those types of processes go on. So these, loss of creativity and control, I think we maybe dispelled that a little bit here because the input really drives the output, right? So you're not like turning over your creativity to something else. You're actually driving that output and using it as a tool. I did not dive into the legal or ethical questions here. I think I'd like to reserve that for another time, perhaps a roundtable or a discussion among this group. I think there are plenty of those. There's something circulating around now, like say I use ChatGPT to generate some type of work for me, and I take it and I paste it in, somebody else does it and paste the same thing in, roughly the same output because it's an average output. Who owns the work product, right? Very good question. If anyone owns the work product, right? So that's an important, I think, legal and also ethical question that we're probably all going to face. And in the poll, the others were like, hey, I'm concerned about 1 and 3 or 2 and 4 and things like that. So just, I think we've covered this. Want to use it as a conversation starter here for us. So what is it? What do you think? I'm going to actually turn it over to the Q&A time. What are your next steps, and how do we as an organization or a group work on these things? Thoughts, questions? Please go ahead and just take yourselves off mute. Arka, you go first. You got your hand up.
Absolutely. Firstly, what I would really like to say is, I think, Phil, you have noticed the biggest thing that can be done when it comes to utilizing AIs, which is the moment you saw something in ChatGPT that you did not agree with, you obviously guided it, but the moment you realize that this is not something that align with, you chose to change it. And that's what truly matters when it comes to using AI, because, and what you said, like, so ChatGPT 4 actually is now connected to Google as well. And with 5, they'll have more search engine capabilities. But one thing that truly matters is when you're utilizing AI, it leads to 1 or 2 things. One, you agree with it and you improve on it, or it gives you something that's completely absurd. It can be stereotypical, racial, whatever that might be. And your own beliefs and values play a role over there. And that's where you show if you walk the talk, and that's where you differentiate, because you can be like, you know what, I disagree with that. And it still inspires you and pushes you to write something else. And you can literally delete that statement and go about writing your own thing. So that's one of the best things. And as per getting paid and so much more, you already know, and I've even put it into chat, like for the last year nearly, we have been using ChatGPT for our clients, and we have been using them to land projects, close projects. And I literally tweeted about this today itself, that all those clickbaits that we used to see where, how I ended up making $10,000 in 1 week, they can truly be possible now if you learn to integrate AIs in your own process and so much more. So I'd like to leave with that, but I'm happy to, just share my thoughts going forward as well.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to go to Josie next.
Well, I just wanted to say something that I put in the chat that I thought occurred to me. There's something called COCA, which is like a database of words that are used in a variety of places on the internet or in spoken speech and stuff. And it happens to be about American English, but it's something that like English language exam creators use to see the frequency of words in use on the internet and stuff. And I wonder how the use of AI is going to affect that. And like, is it going to be discernible? Or is it just going to be like, the frequency of word X is going to be both by robots and by humans? The frequency is affected by this. So it's not something I would expect you to know how to answer, but it's just like this question I have about how it's going to affect things like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have the experience or intellectual capacity to answer that question. I think you're asking a very deep question, right? It's like, well, wait a minute. If the computers are generating the text, but they're basing it on text that is actually an average of prior text, isn't all this going to kind of start becoming this big, for lack of a better term, mosh pit of text? It's like, and and I do agree that I think in my experience so far, if I am casual with the tools, I do not generate terribly different outputs. So for example, I use ChatGPT to do something. I'll take the exact same input and put it over to Jasper. And I will get very similar output because they're using the same techniques, technology, databases, et cetera. So are the tools dramatically different? No. Are the inputs that you could put into the tools different? That's up to you, like we talked about, right? So the inputs will generate different outputs. But I think you asked a very deep question. I'm sure someone who's a lot smarter than I am is thinking about that. What I would say is that so for example, I've been using certain LinkedIn posts, and I don't just take them and cut and paste. It would work. It'd be awful. People are like, what the heck is that? But to generate information that gets me thinking about the writing, get me thinking more deeply about the topic, that's like having a brainstorm session. And I think as scary as it is, one of the forecasts for AI is that ChatGPT will actually become a friend of people. I thought that was a very scary kind of thing. Like, oh, hi, how are you today? If you say, how are you today? It responds like Siri would respond, I'm fine, how are you? It starts to respond to you. And so, this whole concept that I can ask it for brainstorming and to do things like mind mapping and whatnot, it's terribly helpful for that stuff. But I think your point's well taken. It'll be very interesting to see where it goes from here in terms of what actually unique language, let's say, in these tools would be developed. Matt, what you got your hand up?
Yeah, first of all, Phil, amazing presentation. I think I joined a bit late, but I genuinely enjoyed it from where I started watching it. Amazing presentation. I wanted to say just today morning, I was on LinkedIn and I saw this post made by ChatGPT, and it said that for people who are fearing that AI is going to replace them, it's not going to replace them. It's going to replace, you are going to get replaced by the person who's inputting the prompts or things into the AI, right? It's not the AI that's going to replace you, it's the person who's utilizing it that's going to replace you. And that really hit me, and I genuinely agree with it solely because I think Arkai has been sharing all these amazing tools with me for a really long time, and every single time he would bring that up, I'd be like, no, like I don't know, because I feel like there was this fear that came with it, right? Like as a writer who genuinely used to spend an entire day researching through topics, learning more about stuff, reading to ensure that whatever I'm putting out is actually amazing, working through writers' blogs to kind of finish up and reach deadlines. I was like, this is scary because this is genuinely replacing me. But then I realized in this process, after I started using ChatGPT and the other AIs that I'm currently using, it's like you add on to the knowledge that is brought forward. It's like you expand on the things that already exist. It's just creating a foundation for you. It's up to you if you want to cement that foundation stronger and build something on it. And personally, as a coach who helps people with stress and burnout, I feel like this is a tool that can genuinely help people, especially creatives who are facing writer's blocks, for example, or creative blocks. I feel like you can get inspired by some of the points that the AI puts forward for you, because sometimes you're like, I don't know, nothing's resonating with me, nothing's vibing with me. Just like Arkai said, there are going to be times when you don't agree, but you can get inspired by it to add on to it. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that it can help you kind of overcome, right? Especially if you're a solopreneur and you're starting out and you're building everything by yourself. I think with AI, there's a really high chance that you can skip that process of being the person who has to do it all. Like, you can add on to the stuff that the AI is presenting. And it also helps you come up with, web content and all of that stuff with SEO, like SEO rich content. So there's all of those things in there. So it's just like a shift in perspective, I believe, and actually looking into the possibility with an open mind of what AI presents. Because I just found, and I put this in the chat as well, I just found an AI today that actually summarizes YouTube videos for you. So it summarizes the top 8 points or key takeaways from a YouTube video. And I resonated with that so hard because as a person, I love watching videos, but there are times when someone's energy doesn't matches with mine. And I am on a journey where I'm like, I am only going to consume content of people whose energy matches with mine so that I can be interested enough to actually watch till the end. Right. And I know that's like putting up a barrier, but for me, that exists. However, I also recognize that the education, the points that they are sharing is also going to be really dope, no matter how their energy is and if they match with my energy or not. With a tool like this, I can genuinely read the key takeaways, see which point, like it also gives you timestamp. So if you click on the timestamp, it shows this is where the point was taken up from, it expands on it. And imagine just by using that, just by getting those 8 takeaways, you now have new 8 content ideas to write on, to build upon. So there's so much that you can do with technology. I feel like there is obviously that fear, and we need to go through it before we actually enjoy what AI has to give to us. I feel like there's going to be a lot of great stuff going forward, and this is more a blessing than a curse for freelancers and solopreneurs out there who are doing it all on their own. Yeah.
I love the point you made about stress reduction. I think that's a really good one there. It definitely helps with that. If you're trying to, ideate, brainstorm, things like that, you can turn to the tool, especially as a solopreneur, someone who's out there on your own. That's hard. So I think, Greg, you had your hand up and you also had an interesting post into the chat. You mentioned that there was, I'm scrolling back through it because there's so many great points.
Yeah, I was just, Chat GPT is overloaded right now, so it can't be used. So
yeah, well, yeah, that's how popular it's become. That of course it's in its preview stage. They're still holding it in preview right now.
Yeah.
So that's why, of course, some like Jasper guarantee, you're paying for Jasper, so you were guaranteed an open spot, if you will, to use the tool. It'll be interesting to see how they manage that, going forward, because yes, sooner or later, Chat GPT will become a paid for business for sure.
Yeah. I wanted to follow up on Josie's question about word corpus. Maybe this is wrong, but it feels like as we use more and more AI tools or machine language tools, that are drawing on the most commonly used questions and answers, and the text associated with that. What I worry about is, at the top end of the frequency chart, you're going to have 10,000 words that get used, 10 times more than the 100,000th, words. And these AIs are just going to perpetuate that. So it's going to make the long tail even farther down the road, and an even shorter, a tail with a shorter height than it has ever had, because just more text is going to enter the web lexicon that has been relying on the most commonly used words that people are familiar with. And I don't know, I guess that's a little bit unfortunate. just a prediction. I have no idea if that's actually true or not.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. I guess the other way to look at it could be that it's kind of already happened anyway. Like humans ourselves program ourselves into those top, and then they just fade over time, as you say, to the tail, if you will. Probably the left-hand side of the more uncommonly used terms. It's interesting to see. I do worry about that because of this sort of, oh, we'll just turn it over to the algorithm. It's just going to run and run and run on the same thing over and over again. It get kind of boring. But that does pose an interesting opportunity for people who either operate the algorithm or decide to operate outside of it. The great books are always going to be the great books. I mean, that's the great classic novels are there for a reason, right? So we'll see. Anyone else? Thoughts, comments?
I will share my thoughts. Hi, Phil, can you hear me? I think it's been interesting because, honestly, about a month ago, before all this started to blow up, my friend who was and she's a software engineer, but she's always been very future minded, was talking about all the different tools with AI and thinking about starting a side hustle, specifically using AI generated tools to reduce the work that she'd have to do. So one of the things that she was thinking about was like, okay, what about if I were to write a book on like what she works on now, which is cryptocurrency or software engineering, or really, anything that was going to be had a large and interested audience. And also she was looking at I think you guys all saw that fad where people were paying $8 to see different AI versions of themselves. And she had discovered all of these tools for free before like it had hit the mainstream. So it's been interesting. And like when she first introduced this to me, I knew it was like maybe because she's always been a very technical person who sees things in a efficiency and a more black and white way. And I of course interact with a lot of creatives, and so it's like, okay, this is going to be tricky because there's no way you can actually replace like the nuances that I think human beings can bring, right? Even we saw the examples, and I think it's also a matter of like, I forgot what it was called. It's like almost like a surreal. What was has anyone ever seen oh gosh, no, I'm not remembering anything. And essentially sometimes you see a movie that's animated that looks almost a little too human, but not quite human enough. And there's a name for it that I don't quite, something about like the surreal effect.
Yeah, it was a term coin. It'll come to me too, but you're right. Yeah,
yes.
You can tell it's almost too good.
It's a little too,
it's worrisome. Humans, it's
worrisome.
too perfect.
Yeah, it's just textures.
Yes. And there's specifically a Christmas movie that I watch every time. And my friends, like some friends hate it, some friends love it. I was like, I just like, I need to see this. It is, yes, it's the Polar Express. It's the Polar Express. It's the Polar Express.
The Polar Express creeps you out, Kristen? Is that your
It's a little unnerving, but I watch it every time. Tom Hanks voices a train conductor. He sings a song about hot chocolate, but you look at it a little too closely. And I Googled it once. I said, why is the Polar Express weird? And Uncanny Valley, Josie is coming. Oh, yes, she's coming through with, yes, the Uncanny Valley, where it's like, this feels real, but there's something off. And I think that's been like right now with where ChatGPT is at right now, I feel like that's where we're at. It's like this feels real, but it's ever so slightly like no person in this day and age is going to say that to another person, right? Like when they're like, ladies, drop the romance novels.
Right, no one's going to say that. Yeah, right. That's the editing portion of it, right? You have to look, and you do need to read each line. I mean, that's an important part of it. Like you're going to try to use these tools. I think to your point, I think, and this is something, and thank you for the Uncanny Valley. I forget who coined the term, but I've read about that, and I think they work on that, right? Engineers work on that. Like, oh, this isn't going to work because humans aren't going to interact with. Most robots, for example, actual robots don't actually necessarily have a head and eyes and whatnot. They don't need that, right? So the real robots just roam around the floor and move things around for people and things like that, right?
Yeah,
right. So it's sort of we're used to seeing this humanoid experience in a robot. I think that's what we're going to progress to. If you just look at, I'm a big history fan, and if you look at what happened in technology history, even just over the last 15 to 20 years, that's sort of accelerated, right? That process of figuring it out and making it more usable. I have a feeling it's going to happen here.
I think it's also, if you think about it, like it's almost like how open you're willing to be, like to change your habits when it comes to these things, because I'm so used to writing and then editing like after I write a paragraph, I reread it and edit as I go. So it's so new to me to see something that's already been written that I had no like real stakes in, and then go in and be like, okay, is this originally how I would have formatted this, right? Is this the flow that I would have taken? Is this the tone I would have taken? And then it's a totally, then as I think about this, it's absolutely a different beast from writing, right? It is becoming a matter of, oh my, I guess you're almost like an editor of your own prompts, right? Is for you are the ChatGPT's publisher. You're here to say like, does this make sense? You're not the original writer. Maybe you're the inspiration, right? And getting your mind around that, because even with the emails, and sometimes they like have it, they're like, did you want to say this? And it's in grayscale. I don't like that. I don't like them assuming that, because then it influences my thinking of like, is that how I wanted to phrase it? Or did I want to take a different direction, like hit a different note? So it'll be interesting to see, like, but I can see myself using ChatGPT for lower stakes things. Like if I like need to write Instagram captions that just get the point across, right? Something short, something sweet, and be like, oh, I've said everything that my mind can come up with. Let's see what ChatGPT can do. But with like personalized emails, okay, I guess this is my question to the group. Do you trust ChatGPT and yourself to edit it properly to send an email that you're happy with?
I would like to answer that. And so one thing is that ChatGPT is actually, while it is the hype, it's actually on the bottom end of things. So Copy AI is another tool that truly captures emotions and emotions. So in ChatGPT, you can put a prompt that, make it sound like Ryan Reynolds or Gary Vaynerchuk, and it will do that. But in Copy AI, you can truly capture emotions. And Copy AI literally just launched this yesterday, and we used this for a client to increase their email list by 10,000. By literally so what it does is you can copy the LinkedIn URL of a person you want to connect with, you put it there, and then you write a bit either about your company, your product, and everything. And it takes a bit longer, but it goes through their LinkedIn profile and makes it really emotional and makes it really personal by looking at things they talk about or how they position themselves. But at the end of the day, it's all about how you differentiate. Because if you think that AI is going to do everything, if you have good control over it, yes, because we have literally used AI to do 80% of the job, but it's the last 20% where we truly make the difference, where we need to add that value to make that dent. But even so, like the production time and so much more has increased. And I would actually trust Copy AI, not ChatGPT, but Copy AI because of its emotional understanding, because we literally gave it a paragraph from one of my notes that I had written about gravitation and design thinking. And it would 10 different paragraphs that sounded just like me. And I think SEO plays a huge role here too, because the more you're out there, the more it will capture your visibility and your understanding. And for me personally, because I'm the only person in the world named Arka. So when I literally put Arka there, it knows exactly how to make it sound. Just like with even famous celebrities and everything, it knows exactly what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, it's not about, just creating the content, but also how much you're willing to collaborate with the AI. Because if you think that the AI is doing it, it's not. Because as you said, Kristen, that, you don't like the influence that, Google Smart Chips has when you're typing, and then that great thing comes up in emails or anywhere else as well. While that is there, it still influences you, and sometimes it triggers you. Sometimes it just annoys you, and like, I have to write something else. Get out of the way. I was once literally writing an email, and it copied something from my previous email using Smart Chips, and then I sent it without realizing. So I was like really annoyed and had to send another email to a client updating that. But it is still a collaboration. It's not just you. It's not just the AI, but it's you influencing the AI, and then it influencing you back, and it's like an entire loop. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, you asked the question whether I would feel confident in sending an email out. I think that if you would ask me that question 6 or 8 weeks ago, I would have said not a chance, not a chance. And today I'd say I'd have to spend a good solid time with the prompts, but at some point I would arrive at a copy and paste. Yes, yeah, I would. So it's been a mind shift for me. But to your point, Chris, I think that, what's been most helpful is brainstorming, ideation, relieving the stress. If you're just like, oh, I need to write, I need to do content, content for my customer and my client. They need 4 emails this month. I got to do 4 weekly emails, and they're in the theme is going to be, I don't know, community, or it's going to be fly fishing for women, or whatever it is. You could feed that in there and it starts spitting out stuff at you, and it might be just junk, but you're like, it starts your brain work, and you're like, oh, that's not a great topic, and you're like, well, wait a minute, actually, it's not a bad topic. I could use that, and so it does jumpstart the thinking. I don't think it's going to be. It's not there yet where it's going to just be a copy paste thing. I do think that there's on the first go around, that is. I do think there's some really fascinating tools, and Archive mentioned copy AI. I know Jasper's incorporating some of that as well. I can tell Jasper, I want this to sound like Oprah Winfrey. I want it to sound like Joe Rogan. I want it to sound, so you could pick celebrities, and it'll alter. It's really kind of fascinating. It alters the output to use words they might use more often. Obviously, there's a massive amount of Oprah Winfrey data out there, a massive amount of Joe Rogan data, right? So it just grabs that, crunches it, sticks it in there, goes, oh, you want to sound like Joe Rogan? What are words Joe Rogan uses, or what are words that any Oprah Winfrey uses, whatever. So it's super interesting. I think the future is a terribly exciting place. As I kind of wrap up here, I know we're conscious of everyone's time. That it's a terribly exciting place. I think, Kristen, I'll go back to, you mentioned about, are you the operator? I used to run a business, and we would take over data centers for people. And so prior to having data centers, you had stuff in a data center in your office or in your building or whatever it was. And you had to have people running around and managing all that. Boy, what did we do? We automated a lot of those tasks, right? We're like, okay, wait a minute. Can you set up a tool that will just let me know if that server crashed? Well, they don't have to have somebody sitting there watching for a red light to, that would be crazy, right? Well, we don't do that anymore. Now we have automated tools that actually go reboot it and fix it, things like that, so that we relieve the human burden. That's what this is all about, right? That's the burden that falls on people to do things. I think that's what this could do. I think Matt Harima hit the nail on the head a bit about how it reduces stress. Does it produce, the best output? Not yet. That's my experience. So any last comments from anyone? Again, I want to be conscious of people's times. I do have a question. We were talking about doing roundtables and things like that in 2023. Would this be a topic that we could recruit some people to do a roundtable on and have discussion points around this? Would that be worthwhile? Make some thumbs up. Okay, so that's something to think about. Maybe even draw in some more industry experts. I'm just one dude out here, man. Just we'll try to look at some experts there. We probably have some in our community as well. So we'll look forward to doing that. But thank you all for coming. We will go ahead and get this posted. Let's see, Matt Harima put a post up. The cold emails. Great, Josie. Glad that you have a better understanding of this, and I'm sure I'll be seeing some automated emails from you. Hey, you know what, Josie? Here's something for you. I know you still do your chat or your ClickUp stuff and whatnot. You still do like that. Okay. I would be fascinated to do some inputs to ChatGPT on generate a project plan that I could put into ClickUp for this and see what it does. Like really specific stuff. I bet it would kick something back to you because it knows about project planning. It knows about, just knows about a lot of stuff, or knows of a lot of stuff. Doesn't know about it. Anyway, thank you all for attending.